I'm AEA President Andrew Morrill.
And I'm AEA Vice President Joe Thomas, and we're here to talk to you about the opportunities for the state and for your local association around the Quality Education and Jobs Initiative.
As a local president within the AEA, you know, because you've heard from your members, how difficult it is in the state of Arizona to steward our students across our public schools. We know that we're coming out of, slowly, an economic recession in this state, but we know there are bigger issues that we've had to deal with. A legislature that doesn't seem particularly interested in the success of our students or in what we do for them in all of our capacities. You know that we've all been challenged and that challenge has visited itself in our members. But things can change, and sometimes it's a matter of believing that they will change and finding our role in them. I'm very pleased to tell you that a growing coalition across the state of Arizona is ready to do something in strong support of our members, of our students, and in why we exist, what we do in our public schools. And it's called the Quality Education and Jobs Ballot Initiative. First and foremost, the Quality Education and Jobs Ballot Initiative is about education funding. Business leaders, community leaders, parent networks have made that the priority of this initiative. 80% or more of the funding generated from this initiative will go into our public education system. But it also provides an important piece of stability because the initiative will stop the legislature from being able to cut the M&O per pupil funding. Now, I know we've heard that before, but a careful effort in the design of this initiative is to protect as much as possible, and you know how this goes, but as much as possible, protect that per pupil funding from further legislative cuts and reductions. That is a central piece of the ballot initiative. The other thing is, and of course this is in response to terrible cuts to education funding in the last 4 years, it restores a number of funding areas, and perhaps most exciting, for the first time, the base level per pupil funding will have a piece for disadvantaged students. We can call it a poverty weight or an additional poverty assistance. This is per pupil across a district. You don't have to have a set number of students to qualify for this. It'll be built in to the per pupil funding. In addition, this is a really comprehensive ballot initiative where education funding is concerned. We know that we've seen cuts in all kinds of critical areas that matter a great deal to our members. And this initiative addresses many of those. For instance, this creates and revitalizes scholarships for Arizona students into our universities. But it goes further. It also creates scholarships for community colleges, and we know that a lot of our students choose that path into higher education. It also funds, and in many cases restores funding that's been cut to our career and technical education programs. And it invests or reinvests in adult literacy, including GED programs. So this is really a multifaceted approach, again, putting the funds back, reinvesting in those areas that matter to our students, to families, and to our members.
So let's take a look at where the voters in Arizona stand on this issue. Polling was done months ago to see what the voters' feelings were about education, the Quality Education and Jobs Initiative. And we found that 70% of the voters in Arizona support the tenets of this initiative. And not just support, but 38% strongly support this, even in the face of opposition.
And in fact, Joe, one of the things that voters like most about this initiative is the level to which it protects education funding from any kind of legislative reductions. That resounds well with voters and is part of that strong support.
What voters also told us is they have no confidence that the legislature will do this job by themselves. Only 19% of the voters in Arizona see the Arizona legislature adequately funding education and restoring the cuts that your schools have weathered over the last several years.
And in fact, Joe, this is consistent with where voters have been on the issue of funding education right along, all the way back to Prop 301, passing Prop 100 overwhelmingly, protecting early childhood funding from legislative cuts and sweeps. And now, this time, the voters are indicating strong support because, again, they show through the polling that was done that funding public education is their #1 priority, right along with addressing the needs of Arizona's children. As educators, we know that those two things are inseparable. We know the relationship between healthy, safe students and the quality of the education they attain. And the voters know that too, and they're ready to stand in support and vote in support of the Quality Education and Jobs Initiative. Interestingly, that same polling shows that cutting taxes further really isn't even on the radar for Arizona's voters. It's not a priority in any way, shape, or form. And frankly, that was indicated in the polling across demographics, to the point where even those polled who indicate political conservatism as their orientation, they identify themselves as conservatives. 66% of those folks indicated support for the Quality Education and Jobs Initiative. So there's good news coming from the polling and good reason to believe that we can be successful. We've got a lot of work to do. If something's worth doing, it usually comes with a fairly serious effort, and that's where we find ourselves. There's great reason to be optimistic. There's great reason to believe that we can pass the Quality Education and Jobs Initiative. But there's a timeline we've got to pay attention to and actions that we have to take right now. And that's where we truly become the Arizona Education Association, made up of all of our locals working in concert across the state. The initiative was launched officially on March 9th, and that's when the signature gathering began. We've made great progress, with almost 70,000 signatures gathered so far. That's important because we have until July 5th to collect more than 225,000 signatures. We've got to make sure that we get so many signatures that we know we're qualifying for the ballot. July 5th is the important deadline. We'll spend between now and July 5th then on the signature gathering campaign with an initiative that's always the first major aspect. Got to have the signatures to qualify for the ballot in November. After July 5th and through November then, we'll carry out the larger part of the campaign. Outreach to our communities, certainly outreach to our members, getting everybody on board with what this initiative is and why it's the right answer, the right time for students, for families, for Arizona's public schools. So we have a lot of work to do. We can do it, but it all begins first with the signature gathering campaign.
So the general election is on November 6th, and we have quite a lot to do between now and then. The first thing that I would ask you to do is visit the Quality Education and Jobs website. Follow them on Twitter. Like them on Facebook. Share it all with your friends so everyone understands all the events that are going on around the state and they can participate in them. We're going to be rolling out a Quality Education and Jobs Toolkit soon. Look for information from your organizational consultant and work with them and your local leadership to build an engagement plan inside your local. That engagement plan is going to be around the early phase of the campaign, which is petition gathering, and then we're going to register our voters. We're going to engage members in our campaign and really see this opportunity for what it is to build and strengthen your local association through the Quality Education and Jobs Initiative.
And that's really what this is about internally across the AEA. We know that we have had a difficult time. There have been a number of challenges coming from the legislature. They're not only under-investing in public education, but they seem to have lost a sense of the importance of the voice of the educator in shaping the direction and policies of education across the state. And that, after all, is why the AEA exists. We're the collective voice of public education. And we know we've met with some opposition from those in the legislature that want to see that investment in our schools and unfortunately in students and families cut again and again and again. We've stood strong against that idea. And it has resulted in some struggles. Your members feel it, and you do as well as a leader, a volunteer leader, which means in the course of your busy day, you're taking on this other dimension of being a voice for public education. And we greatly respect that. Now and then an opportunity comes along, and we have to decide, are we going to believe that we can seize this opportunity? The last 3 to 4 years have been difficult. What are we going to do to turn the corner? What are we going to do to make sure we turn the corner as a state and put the priority back on students and families and our public schools? What are we going to do to turn the corner for our members who provide a vital role in the life of every student in Arizona, impact families, impact the future of the state, and yet right now feel that frankly not that many people are interested in their success, the passion they bring to their work, the commitment they bring every day. We want to turn the corner and make that a part of the focus again, and we know that you do as well. And this is also about the strength of your local, turning the corner to brand your local as the group of professionals, the collective voice in your district and in your community that speaks out for the needs of students and is willing to act on them. And the great news in terms of this initiative is that there are parents across the state, business leaders, community leaders, organizations signing on every day. So we do have an opportunity to turn the corner. We do have an opportunity to put the priority back on our students where it belongs, back on what we do for students. And the great thing is that Arizona voters are indicating that they want to stand with our members in the role that they play in the lives of students and see this initiative through to passage in November. Put the priority of the state back. We have to believe we can do that. And I think we can. I think it's consistent with your values as an individual, your values as a leader of your members, and with the values across the Arizona Education Association. You're going to get more information on the ballot initiative. We will be rolling out updates. Additional resources will go into the toolkit that Joe talked about. You'll be able to look at that and view it and have continuing conversations with your organizational consultant about your campaign. But it does take that first decision. We can do this. The polling, the momentum, the excitement around this suggests that we can. As always, Joe and I and Nidhi Elias, your AEA treasurer, the board of directors of the AEA, want to thank you for everything you do. Leadership at this time in Arizona, in the endeavor of public education, is not easy. And yet here you are, signed on. Let's sign on for this ballot initiative. Let's pass this for our students, our members, for public education, and for the future of the state. Thanks very much, and stay tuned.